It's a big, big weekend. And I'm fascinated over the years at getting to understand how coaches work with their teams. For so long, with me my entire time covering LSU sports, which wasn't that long day to day as a beat writer, but then paying attention to him as I have over the years, there was such a long period of time where you had Les with football and Paul Maneri with baseball. You knew how they ticked, you knew how they operated, you knew what to expect, you knew what you were going to get. There wasn't a lot of intrigue. They won a lot of games. They handled press conferences the way they did. They handled players the way that they did. And that was the norm around here in Baton Rouge. And since then, you've had a couple of different football coaches that have done things a little bit differently. And you've had now a new baseball coach who is completing his second year here in Baton Rouge. And so this is all new to us, those that follow LSU, with how Jay Johnson is going to handle his program. I think I've got a pretty good handle on how he's going to do things from a talent acquisition standpoint, and it's pretty good. I've got an understanding that he's an incredibly offensive-minded coach who takes game planning to incredibly meticulous lengths, who is very detail-oriented and very level-headed. Called it a no-drama program in an interview last week, and we're learning about Jay. Because most things that come up, we're seeing them for the first time. And the last 2 weeks are the first time in the Jay Johnson era that we have seen a team on a ridiculous ascent, basically cruise control, and some real issues come up. Yeah, last year they were playing well when Ole Miss came in and swept them, and, okay, that's maybe an example of kind of like this, but I think this is a little bit different than it was last year. And I've been fascinated over the last 2 weeks. I've made a point to pay attention to the way Jay is handling this pitching staff that is, as we know, struggling mightily. I watched Chris Lemonis come out to the mound twice last week in two different instances in two different games and absolutely let one of his pitchers have it for not throwing strikes, for hitting batters. Like, he was visibly upset with the pitcher. And I've seen Jay do that like 2 notches down over the last year and a half. Every once in a while, he comes out there and he's just not happy with what you just did. But I've watched closely over the last 2 weeks with the way that he's handled pitchers on the mound, taking them out. And that some of it has been really bad spots. I've watched him in post-game press conferences, in post-game radio interviews. I've listened to him on the morning show on this channel. I've seen him in press conferences in the middle of the week when there was no game. And I was just curious to see what's the strategy here with a bunch of guys who are not pitching well and they know they're not pitching well. And it's pretty obvious the way Jay is taking this. He's loving on them. Hate it or love it, I'm indifferent. Some people say, no, you got to be stern. You got to be authoritative. You got to let these guys know they need to step it up. You need to tell them now. And there are some people that are going, look, just build them up. Just build them up. Kill them with kindness. And I'm indifferent. Everybody ticks a little bit differently. I'm not. If I was a pitcher or if I was a player and a coach absolutely lost their mind, threw 67 F-bombs at me and just went nuts, I'd probably laugh at them because I just don't handle anything in my life that way. It doesn't matter how I would handle it because I'm not on the mound. But I'm just watching how Jay handles things. And he is just dumping confidence on these guys. Even when he takes them out of games, you can read it in his body language, in the things that, in the reaction by the pitchers that they know they're not getting it done. And he's just trying to build them up. And that was very evident to me on Tuesday. It wasn't like LSU pitched the heck out of the ball on Tuesday. Blake Money gave up 5 straight hits. Griffin Herring dropped the ball and then walked a couple of guys. Gavin Guidry was not perfect. He issued a walk. They weren't lights out against a Southland team that's in the middle of the pack in the Southland. It was just a fine effort. It was okay. And for those that aren't familiar, if you're not on social media, you don't pay attention, after every win, Jay does 2 things. they have the magic moment where he takes the lineup card and gives it to the person who tilted the game in LSU's favor. Big strikeout by a pitcher. Huge 2-out base hit. Grand slam. If Skeens goes 8 shutout with 14 strikeouts, it's just Paul Skeens taking the mound. But he gives a magic moment at the end of the game. They also take a picture. That's tradition number 2. But going back to loving these guys up, it wasn't that great a pitching performance that we saw from this team on Tuesday. He gave the whole pitching staff magic moment. Went through all of them individually, said, great job, love to see it. I think he knows that these guys know they're not pitching it great. I think he knows deep down that a lot of teams are having trouble pitching, and we did it for 12 weeks. We pitched well enough. And these are the guys we got. So let's try to get as much out of him as we can. And he's loving on them. Now tonight, most of those guys are going to have tennis shoes on for a lot of the game because they're giving the ball to Paul Skeens. And tonight, it is crucial to me that LSU win the baseball game. It's not a must-win. I'll tell you when it's a must-win. It's not a must-win. They need to win. They need to win this game. Georgia's throwing a freshman left-hander with very average stuff, and LSU's throwing the best pitcher in the country. Paul Skeens needs to go out there and take care of his business, and this should look like last week. Mississippi State was never in it, ever. 2 weeks ago, Auburn in Game 1 was never in it, ever. That's what it should look like. You ought to score 3 runs in the first 2 or 3 innings. Skeens ought to come out there, flash 100, keep that slider command where it's been for 2 weeks, which has elevated his game to the next level, and take control of the weekend and put yourself in position to put this top 8 seed away over the next 48 hours. That can be done. As far as the lineup goes, as I mentioned, freshman left-hander going for Georgia tonight. His name's Jarvis Evans. Evans throws 88 miles an hour. His slider is kind of horizontal. It's a little sweepy, and it doesn't have a ton of bite to it. It's really more of a change of pace pitch than anything, not some nasty 12-6er or some sharp, tight, downward breaking slider. It's a little sweepy, and there's nothing really to it. So for me, offensively, it could be a spot for Jared Jones. He's going back to Georgia. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you're not going to get overpowered by the fastball, and it's not like the breaking ball's incredible, and it's coming into you as a right-hander. Now, we know Travinski's going to play. So if we're going to play one of those guys at first, you can play Beloso at first if you want. If you're going to play one of those guys at first, I would rather Jones play first and Travinski DH or catch. This is not a team that steals a lot of bases, so Milazzo is not necessarily happy behind the plate. If you listen to Jay on the morning show earlier today, he said we had to catch Alex on Tuesday, so we wanted Travinski in the lineup. They put him at first base. They wanted to catch Alex because McNeese runs a lot. Georgia doesn't. Plus, they shouldn't have a lot of base runners tonight. So I would think it would be a good time to put Travinski back there. Now, Milazzo has been catching Skeens, and if you don't want to upset that apple cart, I'm fully on board with it. So somebody's got to come out of the lineup. One of Milazzo, Beloso, Jones, and Travinski, one of them can't play. It's probably Jones. But I'm just telling you, in this spot, it's a pretty good arm to hit Jones against. That said, Jones can hit against the other 2 left-handers too. The guy LSU will see on Saturday, we'll talk about it tomorrow, is pretty underwhelming. That's one thing. And my last thing here before I get to the SEC slate tonight, which is really fascinating. I haven't done this in 2 weeks, and I'm going to take the top of it right now. Cruz is going to go nuts this week. He's going to go absolutely nuts in Athens. They got 3 left-handed starters. The whole staff sucks. He's due, and he's going to light this thing up. It may not be tonight. It might be tomorrow. It might be Sunday. He's going to hit a homer. He's going to pump 2 in the gap. He's going to hit a 2 RBI double. He's going to take off this weekend again, and he'll leave us for dust. That's happening this weekend. It started with 2 for 12, don't worry about it. And then you got into, okay, well, he's fighting a little bit, and he didn't swing it great on Tuesday. Had one that Went off the third baseman that could have been a hit, I guess. I would have ruled an error. He got a pitch over the plate in the late innings, and he just chopped it to third, and they ended up throwing it away. That he missed it. He should have hit it harder. But this staff is weak, and these arms are left-handed, and they're not going to be able to punch him out with a breaking ball. He's going to erupt this weekend for LSU, and that will be a very welcome sight. Again, it's a 5 o'clock first pitch tonight for LSU and Georgia. You can stream it, ESPN Plus. If you want to listen to it, you can always do that on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. Pregame will crank up at 5:30. It'll be Chris Blair and Bill Franquez on the call from Foley Field over there in Athens. Anthony Dasher covers Georgia for the Rivals Network, part of UGAsports.com. He's going to jump on in 15 minutes to give us a little bit further information on this Georgia team. When we come back, there are so many of these SEC weekends, and I know that segment's not for everyone, just kind of going through whatever Florida and Tennessee are doing, but now it directly impacts LSU. I will tell you who we're pulling for tonight next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Jimmy Odd and Charles Hanniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time. We're live at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, downtown facing Town Square. We got a really good golf tournament. We got Major League Baseball. We got hockey. We got horses with Colucci. A little bit of everything. Game Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So I'm going to get you ready for tonight in the Southeastern Conference, and I want to be very clear with my intentions when I tell you who we're pulling for. I think it's cool if you win the SEC West. I think it's great if you win the Southeastern Conference. Those are great accomplishments. I don't care about those as much. I want a top 8 seed. That's all I want. That's what these 56 games plus the tournament are for, to get a top 8. So if you're looking to win the league, you need Florida and Arkansas to get swept. Well, I don't want Florida and Arkansas to get swept because that means Kentucky and Vanderbilt are doing the sweeping, and they're directly competing for LSU for a national seed. Now, if LSU sweeps, it doesn't matter. You win the league, and that's all well and good. But I'm not counting on LSU sweeping right now for the purpose of this exercise. So all I'm telling you when I'm telling you who I'm pulling for, who I want, it's 100% driven by being a top 8 national seed. So let's get into it tonight. You got Florida at Kentucky. I want the Gators. The Gators have a half-game lead on LSU, but their RPI is right there with LSU. Their quadrant 1 looks better than LSU's. So I think Florida looks a little better than the Tigers on paper right now. Now, they falter this weekend. Who knows what it looks like, but I'm trying to keep Kentucky out of the mix. Right now, Kentucky's only calling card is their RPI in quad 1. Their conference record is very poor, and LSU, well, relative to the top 8, and LSU took care of Kentucky in Baton Rouge. So I'm pulling for Florida tonight. Interestingly, Hurston Waldrop's going to get the ball tonight for Florida. He's been their game 2 guy all year, but last week when they were playing Vanderbilt, he pitched an inning through 11 pitches and the rains came, so they had to pull him, and he never pitched again. So he's on massive amounts of rest, and they're going to get Waldrop a chance to go tonight against Kentucky, who will counter with Travis Smith. So I'm pulling for the Gators tonight. Arkansas is at Vanderbilt. Arkansas is 19-8 in the league. LSU is 17-9. So Arkansas has a game-and-a-half lead on LSU in the West. They look better on paper. Their quad 1 is significantly better than LSU. Their strength of schedule is better than LSU. Their RPI is better than LSU right now. Arkansas is a stronger seeding possibility than LSU right this second. I'm fine leaving them there. I don't need Vanderbilt coming up from behind LSU in terms of paper and taking a spot. So I'm for Arkansas tonight. Hagen Smith will go against Patrick Riley for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's top 2 guys, once again, not listed in the weekend rotation. Carter Holton is still being held out, and things are not looking super awesome for Vanderbilt from a health perspective. Arkansas is actually getting healthy. Hagen Smith, not part of the injury issues, but you've seen some guys return over the last few weeks. Brady Tigert, certainly one of those guys. And then Hunter Holland had an awesome outing last weekend. So I'm pulling for Arkansas tonight behind Hagen Smith, who's 7-1 with a 2.47 ERA. The one injury that Arkansas did announce yesterday is Louisiana boy Peyton Stovall, who's been battling injuries this year and hasn't really swung the bat great when he's been in there. He's going to miss the season with a torn labrum. So Peyton Stovall, the Houghton product, is out for the year for Arkansas. They'll do battle with Vanderbilt. I'm pulling for the Hogs in that one. A&M and Mississippi State will play in Starkville. Mississippi State's trying to get to Hoover. They got work to do. They're going to have to overtake either Georgia or Missouri. A&M's trying to get in the NCAA tournament. So, you look at A&M's resume right now, and they got work to do. Their RPI is 40, and they've only got 12 league wins. So, they probably need at least 2. They're not getting in with 13 league wins, a big-time losing record in quad 1, and RPI in the 40s. That's a no-go. They've got to win 2. So, quite frankly, I'm pulling for Mississippi State tonight to knock Texas A&M out of the NCAA tournament. Sounds petty? Don't care. That's where I'm sitting. Go Dogs. Where's the cowbell? Klanga, baby. Pulling for the Dogs. And look, Chris Lamona's nice step in the right direction last week, but they don't make it to Hoover. Better hope you don't get a summon to the AD's office. That's just kind of the situation there in Starkville. State's going to have to sweep to get to Hoover. Tennessee and South Carolina, massive implications for both of these teams this weekend. I know this is not comfortable for you, the LSU fan, and really most college baseball fans, but probably behooves you to pull for Tennessee. Because Tennessee's not going to get a top 8 unless they go nuts in Hoover. And South Carolina could. South Carolina's RPI is 5. They're just a half game behind LSU. Of course, we know they split that series. And South Carolina in quad 1 looks very, very good at 18-12. So if you're looking to jockey for top 8s, you got to pull for Tony Vitello and the Vols. South Carolina's leaking oil in a big way. There's no doubt about it. But they're capable and they're at home. They're gonna Tennessee's gonna go with Andrew Lindsey, who they've been going with on Fridays in game 1s the last month, and they're gonna bump Dolander back 1. Eli Jones gonna go from South Carolina. Will Sanders is hurt. Surprise, surprise. I mean, go through the SEC aces that can't pitch. Will Sanders down, Carter Holton down, Jackson Wiggins down, Hunter Elliott down. I mean, it's Joseph Gonzalez at Auburn down. I mean, it's person after person after person. 6 of the teams in the SEC don't have their Friday night guy right now. Some haven't had him all year. Some won't have him the rest of the year. Will Sanders is not pitching tonight, so we'll see. Eli Jones going to take the ball for South Carolina. We're pulling for the Balls out on Rocky Top tonight. Missouri and Auburn, that one matters twofold. Missouri's trying to get to Hoover to keep their season alive. Auburn is trying to scrap and claw and find a way to get themselves in the hosting picture. They've obviously played great the last 4 weekends. The RPI is all the way up to 20. They've got work to do on their Quadrant 1 wins, and Missouri is not going to help them with that at this. Oh, yeah, they are. They're 38. Missouri's moved up to 38. They did sweep last weekend. So that would be big for them to go ahead and get 3. They're probably going to have to sweep. In doing what they did against LSU a couple weeks ago, Tommy Vale's not going to pitch tonight. He's going to go on Friday night, and they're going to throw Chase Alsop, who LSU crushed all over the yard a couple weeks ago, but they're going to pitch him against Missouri. Missouri trying to get to Hoover, so we'll see how that goes. And then Ole Miss at Bama. Bama needs to win 1 game. Bama wins 1 game, they will be in the NCAA tournament. Ole Miss gets to play 3 more games, and then they are headed to Cape Cod and the Northwoods League, and quite frankly, a few of them to the transfer portal, because Bianco's going to have to gut that thing and go find some guys. They are not nearly good enough at this point in terms of their talent, and Hunter Elliott's not going to pitch for them next year. So it's a bad look in Oxford right now. They got serious work to do. They only got to play 3 more games. So your rooting guide as an LSU fan tonight, Florida against Kentucky. Give me the Gator Chomp. Learned that from Jacob Hester. We're pulling for Arkansas against Vanderbilt. Sweet! Got the cowbells out, Klanga. We're pulling for Mississippi State against Texas A&M. Rocky Top. Pulling for Tony Vitello, Tony V and the boys against South Carolina. I don't care what goes on in Missouri against Auburn. I guess I'll pull for Missouri because I don't like Auburn and don't really want them to host a regional. And then Ole Miss and Bama. You want to knock Bama out and laugh at them. They're hiring a new coach anyway, so who cares? You can pull for Ole Miss. Doesn't really matter. But those ones at the top where LSU is going to be jockeying for position. And again, all this is contingent upon LSU not taking care of its business. LSU only wins 1 this weekend, is leaking oil all the way to the finish. You're going to have to go to Hoover and do some work. And this is the stuff you need to happen to help you out. If LSU wins 2 of 3, as we've talked about, you can go ahead and close the book on it. So, look, I think a lot gets made of what goes on in Hoover. Sometimes it matters. Some of those Maneri teams went on runs and eked into the top 8 because of Hoover. I believe that. But last year, Ole Miss had a trash record in the league, a mediocre RPI. They went to Hoover and lost in game 1. All their beat writers wrote the story, firing Bianco, and they're ready to publish it when the selection show happened on Monday. And then all of a sudden they got in on the last one, and Hoover didn't have much to do with it. You can listen to who you want to listen to about why that happened and why Ole Miss was let in based on a couple of guys in the selection committee. But the fact of the matter is that Hoover didn't matter last year, and it may not from year to year, depending on what you do when you get there. But for LSU, that's what needs to happen tonight. And we'll recap it all tomorrow. RPIs are going to change. A lot of teams around the country are playing tonight. And so we'll have some shakeup in the RPI and in a lot of the metrics. And, of course, the SEC standings, which could matter come selection show on Memorial Day. So I'll get you caught up on all of it. But that's kind of the the menu for this evening and what LSU needs to have happen. All right, excited to hit the phone lines coming up in our next segment, learn more about this Georgia Bulldogs team. I would guess Georgia is the team that I've seen the least. I've probably only watched Georgia play 4 or 5 games this year. So I can look at the stat sheet. I know some of the names and certainly know a couple of the pitchers and Charlie Condon. I want a little bit deeper dive on this Georgia Bulldogs team and what they're playing for this weekend and whether or not it's possible this could be Scott Strickland's last home weekend as a Georgia coach. Anthony Dasher will fill us in coming up next.
This is On Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
On Friday's OTB, we'll recap Game 1. Did the Tigers manage to take advantage of Paul Skeens once again? Plus, Look forward to games 2 and 3 in Athens. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LSU and Georgia tonight, 5 o'clock Central Time from over in Foley Field, Athens, Georgia. That's where we're headed on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Anthony Dasher covers the Bulldogs for the Rivals Network. Anthony joins us now. Anthony, how are you?
Doing great.
Appreciate you giving us a little bit of time. I know that there was some weather rolling through there this afternoon. Look okay out there?
It's still rolling through right now as we speak. It's actually slowed down a little bit, but it's been raining all day long. I know the forecast today is still calling for like 30-40% chances of rain, but I know they're going to try everything they possibly can to get this thing in, because the last thing they want is a doubleheader coming up. So we'll see, but fingers are crossed.
What's on the line for Georgia this weekend?
What's that again?
What's on the line for Georgia this weekend?
Oh, postseason. As far as getting the SEC tournament, that's what's on the line for Georgia. Going into the last weekend, nothing is clinched. But yeah, I mean, if they want any kind of hopes of getting an NCAA bid, which right now is slim and none, and Slim's winning. And maybe actually none's winning right now, as far as I'm concerned. But it's just they got to win the series number one to have a chance. They never got to go to Hoover and still win 2 or 3 games. So there's a lot on the line from that standpoint. And beyond that, I mean, who knows? This is Scott Strickland's 10th year. His job could be on the line as well.
Kind of feels that way from the outside. I thought that was such a great hire when they brought him in. And they've had some really good teams. They just haven't gotten it done in June to the level that you would like to at a championship level program like Georgia aspires to be. Tonight, you're going to get a left-handed freshman on the mound. It's going to be Jarvis Evans. I know he hasn't gotten a ton of work this year. What can you tell us about Jarvis Evans?
Well, Jarvis is one of the more interesting stories for Georgia this year. True freshman. He only pitched up until about a month ago. I think he got into like 3 ball games. ERA was like about 16. But Georgia, with injuries like everybody else has had in the league, just was pretty much as forced to throw him out there. And to his credit, he performed. 2 weeks ago was against Tennessee, shutting the balls down, was a co-SEC freshman of the week. Left-hander, he's not going to throw particularly hard. He may top out 90-91. He's got a good breaking pitch, good change-up, and he's able to keep guys. He's so far keep guys, off balance, and that's what he'll be looking to do against this great LSU lineup tonight.
He didn't pitch between March 10th and April 22nd. No injury issues, just they were giving other guys work, and now he's been forced into action?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, again, like I said, he got off to a very, very rough start and just wasn't getting it done. But because of injuries and that sort of thing, they had to throw him out. He was pretty much the last man in the bullpen that they could put out there to pitch in the game. So he's taking advantage of the opportunity he's gotten.
Is there an arm or two out of the Georgia bullpen that Scott Strickland goes to in the middle of the late innings when they have a lead to try to win it? I know in the save statistics, Leighton Finley and Dalton Radens have been the guys. Are those kind of the guys you would expect to see if Georgia does get a lead at some point this weekend?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, based on what happened at Missouri last weekend. Leighton Finley in the 9th inning with Georgia up both times, and Georgia wound up losing both games. So I'm not sure if he's going to be in that same situation, and that may leave a guy like Chandler Morris. He's probably got the best arm of anybody in the bullpen. Can top out 95-96. His sophomore has pitched some big games before, but again, he's the only guy who can maybe go 1-2 innings at the max. Right now. You mentioned Dalton Radens. He's been a guy who's been coming in more about the 4th or 5th inning, depending on how long the starting pitcher can go. He's a sidewinder. He's given us some home runs this year. He's got to be pretty perfect with his placement of his pitches. If he doesn't, he can get in trouble. And but other than that, Georgia's bullpen has been sketchy. Maybe putting it nicely right now. You just look at the team ERA, not just starting pitchers, but the bullpen as a whole. It's been pretty dreadful this year. So you look at the games Georgia's lost from the. I did some research. I've got a story on the site today. Georgia has lost 8 games this year where the scores either tied or Georgia was ahead going to the 9th inning and lost them. And 7 of those games have been in SEC play. So it's just been a world of problems for the Bulldogs and their bullpen. Just haven't had any kind of depth that Coach Strickland's been able to go to.
There have been really good weekends. Obviously, the Arkansas weekend comes to mind where they get a
Yeah.
sweep, and I mean they've played well at times. When they play well, what's clicking?
When they play well, they're starts to the pitch, and they get some good effort from guys like Liam Sullivan and Charlie Goldstein's going to pitch the game on Saturday. Another left-hander, kind of like Jarvis Evans, who only got an opportunity midway through the year, taking advantage of it. But you look at Georgia's lineup; that's where the strength of this team is, especially at number 2 through number 4 spots with Charlie Condon, who has set the SEC freshman record. Granted, he's a redshirt for home runs, comes into this game with hitting .415, 24 homers, 65 RBIs. Connor Tate hitting behind has been in the league a long time. He's got 50 homers, hitting .390. And then Parks Harbor, the first baseman, third baseman, at 17 home runs, hitting about .300. So those three guys right there, when Georgia is going good, those three guys are playing a huge role.
Charlie Condon's numbers are outstanding, like you just said. He's hitting .415 with the 24 home runs. LSU's obviously had some really good players that have rolled through here. We saw Bregman coming from high school. We saw Dylan Cruz coming from high school. Is Condon a guy that, when he signed and decided to come to Georgia, the thought was this guy could be a star?
Not really. Charlie comes from a very small private high school up near Marietta, up north of Atlanta, and he actually redshirted last year. He just wasn't physically ready. He had the height. He's 6'4", 6'5", but last year he was only about 195 pounds soaking wet. He worked hard in the summer. Went up to played summer ball in Wisconsin. Got like 315 at bats. About a month, over a month's time up there, and gained weight, got stronger, and he's just pretty much just burst on the scene. And we Coach Strickland kind of told us, "Hey, watch out for this guy. He's got the intangibles that you like him, and a good hitter. He got a quick wrist, very strong, very very savvy as far as being a baseball player goes. But he's like you said, he's kind of burst on the scene this year, and he's hitting the ball as hard as any Bulldog I've seen in a while. And I can been covering this team a long time. He's probably the best player Bulldog I've seen since Gordon Beckham back in 2008.
First round pick, Gordon Beckham was a heck of a player and a good major league player as well. What kind of environment do you expect at Foley Field this weekend?
Very good question. Considering how the team is playing right now, I'm not expecting a ton of Georgia fans. I know how well LSU typically travels to Athens, so it won't surprise me a bit to see many Tiger fans at Foley Field for this series of Georgia fans. But, like I said, a lot of folks are kind of down on the program right now. So a lot of the folks who showed up are going to be either relatives or some very diehard fans.
Anthony, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the baseball this weekend.
All right, guys. Thank you.
He's Anthony Dasher, UGAsports.com, part of the Rivals Network. And that's interesting, and it's what I expected when I asked the question. I don't keep my tabs too closely on Georgia baseball these days, but I know that it's not a sport that generates a ton of interest, especially when it's a mediocre product, which it is right now. You've got likely kids out of school. I mean, most colleges have had their graduations already, and you're talking about a Thursday, Friday, Saturday in a small town. That's one of those deals where, like, Baton Rouge is a city. Columbia, South Carolina is a big city. Knoxville is a city. Some of these are college towns that very few people live in, and you got to travel. And when you're from Atlanta, it's an hour drive up the road, but you still got to go do it. It's not something you kind of put on a whim. Oh, let's run over to the ballpark. Like, so if you don't have in your plans to go, like, you usually don't go. And so I think there could be some pretty small crowds this weekend for Georgia and LSU. Tigers going to have to bring their own energy. I think Paul Skeens helps them with that a little bit this evening. In the Bayou Ford chat, saw one directed to me from Stephen Miller. Said, hey, elaborate on the elite frat name Parks Harbor. I'll tell you this. Parks Harbor sounds like about a $225 greens fee somewhere on the East Coast. Parks Harbor sounds like a really nice golf course. Turns out he's just a really nice baseball player. He's had a great year for Georgia. He's hitting 281 on the year with 17 home runs. But Parks Harbor's got a real nice golf course name to it. I can get down with that. I guess maybe I'm playing off the Harbor Town, Bay Harbor up in Michigan. But, yeah, heck of a player and probably would get a bid, quite frankly. We'll come back. There's an anniversary today that we want to point out. We'll do that to close out hour number one.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Has ever seen, with creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Game 1, LSU, Georgia. We'll preview it. Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Really appreciate Anthony Dasher for jumping on, talking Georgia Bulldogs. I'll give you my thoughts on Georgia's kind of roster as a whole, as well as their pitcher tonight and kind of what's important for LSU in this game. Coming up in 13 minutes, Joe Healy always with us in hour number 2 on Thursdays. He'll join us at 2:15 to break down LSU and Georgia as well as the rest of the SEC baseball schedule. Actually, at the top of the hour, we're going to talk about a little football. LSU's got a new safety in tow as of today, but it's an anniversary. We celebrate anniversaries around here. We like to look back on some of the good old days, and sometimes they're not that great. We did the Nola no call. I don't think that was the greatest anniversary I ever did when we back in the fall, but I think a happy anniversary for most around here today. May 18th. This is the 5-year anniversary of a tweet that was sent out. At Joey B sent the tweet. Said, excited to be playing in Death Valley next season. Ready to get to work. Today, May the 18th, the 5-year anniversary of Joe Burrow publicly making the decision to play the rest of his college football eligibility at LSU. And I think at that point, you were kind of looking around going, okay, we got Etling, we got Miles Brennan's here. He's going to take over. And what's this guy from Ohio State? I mean, what are the spring game highlights look? I mean, I remember he was like, all right, let me go look at the spring game highlights. That's all we really got. I think he had some mop-up duty in some other games for Ohio State. You look at the spring game, well, that was a nice corner route there. I think that was all right. I think, we'll take, he's a quarterback. We'll take him, I guess. And it becomes a legend over the next 2 years, and all the stories come out, and I can just vividly see in my brain the wheels in Ed Orgeron's head moving when they're at Mike Anderson's, and he offers Joe Burrow crawfish. He says, yeah, I'd like to try some crawfish. And then Mike Anderson's doesn't have crawfish, so they're going to have to find some crawfish. So he gets a GA on the horn and says, you better go find some crawfish. Bring us some crawfish. And they're just doing anything they can to get a quarterback in the building. And they get one in, and it changed LSU football forever. Changed a lot of our lives forever. I don't mean to be too dramatic in talking about the next 2 years as they would happen, and really just the 19 year, even though 18 was solid. But I'm kind of resigned to the fact, sitting here at 35 years old, that I'm never going to see anything like that again. It's very possible. It just feels improbable. Now, football is going to change a lot over the rest of my LSU watching days. And so we'll see. But that ride, that 4 months, that team, it just doesn't feel like I'm ever going to see anything like that again. And I kind of missed the rise of LSU baseball and the dominance in Omaha. I was 8 in '96, and I saw Warren Morse's homer. I didn't see that game. I don't think I saw that team play one more game the rest of the season. I followed the 2000 team very closely and knew those guys, and came down to the Super Regional and watched every game in Omaha. But I missed a little bit of the rise of LSU baseball. I missed the 80s in basketball when this place was full every single game. And you had National Players of the Year, National Freshman of the Year, top draft pick, guys who had their numbers retired. I missed all that. But I was old enough in 03, and that was special. I was a sophomore in high school, and I was in college in 07, which is as good as it gets. But 19's always going to be the standard to me, I think, the rest of my days. I feel like LSU will win another one while I'm watching. It's never guaranteed, but I feel like they will. But it just probably won't look like that. And I'm okay with that. I made it a point as a fan and as someone who's doing the pre- and post-game show, kind of probably 2 weeks after Texas or so, Joe probably threw for $1 billion on Vanderbilt or something. And I kind of took a second and I went, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this. I'm not going to let this go too fast. I'm going to immerse myself fully in what's going on here. And you always want it back, but I feel like I did a pretty good job of soaking it in while it happened. And I'm forever indebted to Chris Blair and the LSU Sports Radio Network and the folks at LSU Sports Property that let me start doing the pre- and post-game show, that I was able to be in the Dome that night and do the pre- and post-game show from the press box of the Superdome. That's a memory I'll never never let go of. But we could have never seen this coming 5 years ago today, because at that point, we were aware of transfers and that there was a transfer portal that was going to happen, but I don't think we were quite as conditioned to guys transferring and being stars. Yeah, your left guard might transfer. Maybe your sixth man off the bench, or your defensive-minded 7-foot center. But like the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, the greatest player in the history of your school, coming from the bench somewhere else? I mean, you may have believed that was a possibility in 2018, but I certainly didn't. I thought LSU had brought in another quarterback in the line of 500 quarterbacks who I just hope weren't going to be totally dysfunctional. He was pretty functional. My dad's been known to be a little bit pessimistic. A little bit. He'll text me, game over, first quarter. Oh, we're done. It's over. He's been known to be a little pessimistic. There are two athletes at LSU that I have seen break him into overwhelmingly positive. One was a very short time. Zach Hess in Omaha in 17. When he came in, my dad was like, oh, they're not going to hit him. It's very out of character. And that was short-lived because Florida did hit him a little bit in the championship series. LSU didn't have a great chance to win either one of those games, but Florida did hit him a bit. But Burrow just fully broke him. It's like, nobody can beat us. We're scoring every time. Just get us the ball back. Like, it took a guy who is got a rain cloud over his head most of the time to like, don't worry about it. We're good. That needs to go on Joe Burrow's College Football Hall of Fame plaque. Turned rusty positive. 5 years ago today, Joe Burrow tweeted out, excited to be playing in Death Valley next season, ready to get to work. The rest, as they say, is history. That's it for hour number one here on this Thursday. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. It's all there. I opened talking about LSU, their mindset, and what I'd like to see from them tonight at 1 o'clock. Gave you a run through the SEC baseball games that really do matter to LSU tonight at 1:15. Anthony Dasher from Rivals, good enough to come on and talk about these Georgia Bulldogs. And then Joe Burrow Day we celebrate today, so go catch all that on demand. Mention YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel. Type in Hunt on LSU as well as Hunt on Saints. All of our LSU football content, all of our Saints content goes to those YouTube channels. It can come right to you if you subscribe to them, so check those out on our YouTube pages. Busy second hour. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball at 2:15. I'll give you my Georgia scouting report at 2:30. When we come back after SportsCenter, some pretty big news for LSU football today as they added a potential starter for next year. I'll tell you about it top of hour two.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further. like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals tonight in Denver. The Nuggets win Game 1, but the Lakers may try some defensive adjustments in this game, like having Anthony Davis protect the rim. ESPN's Monica McNutt.
Denver has a squad that can knock down threes from multiple positions, right? Like, that's certainly how you potentially neutralize a shot blocker. So I think this Game 2 for me is all about how the Lakers show up defensively.
Monica McNutt on Fitz and Harry. Game 2 coverage at 8:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, TV, and the app. After almost a 2-hour frost delay this morning, the first round of the PGA Championship underway at Oak Hill. Coverage right now on ESPN and ESPN Plus. A three-way tie for the lead. Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, and Keegan Bradley all at 3 under par. NFL owners will hold meetings in Minnesota starting Sunday, but they won't vote yet on the sale of the Washington Commanders. The league is still reviewing the details of that transaction.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on this Thursday. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. Working towards the weekend. Tigers and Dogs tonight at 6 o'clock Central Time. We'll chat with Joe Healy about that coming up, and I'll give you my thoughts on LSU and Georgia at 2:30. But big news for football today in terms of LSU. They add a new member of their secondary via the transfer portal, and that is in the way of Andre Sam. Sam spent time at McNeese State. I get the Southland schools so confused all the time. He was at McNeese State with Frank Wilson, ended up transferring to Marshall, where he's been a very, very solid player for the Thundering Herd. He's going to play his final year of eligibility back home as an LSU Tiger. He's a product of Iowa, Louisiana, over there in southwest Louisiana. Was an incredible athlete at Iowa. He was all-state. He was a wide receiver, kick returner. He ran track, long jump. He was a 4x100, 4x200 relay guy, and then went to McNeese and was a really solid player for them and worked his way up and became a really, really solid player at Marshall. When I turn the film on of him at Marshall, a couple things stand out. He is not afraid to tackle at all. He loves to tackle, and then he loves to tell you about how he loves to tackle. The guy plays with a ton of emotion, and to me, I'm not qualified really to break down the attributes of secondary guys as it pertains to the FCS level and then Conference USA and then the SEC. Like, I could try and I could be like, yeah, he's, reasonable size, a little bit undersized for a safety, runs pretty good. Like, I could try, but it's not what I'm best at. Here's what I feel pretty good about telling you about Andre Sam. Andre Sam plays with a ton of emotion when he's playing against Rice for Marshall. I think that guy is going to be flying around with the effort and intensity of a crazy person when he puts on LSU's uniform in Tiger Stadium. And that's not everything. It's not. There are plenty of guys who went to high school in this state who aren't good enough, even at playing their hardest, to play at LSU. And I don't know if Andre Sam can or not. He's going to play hard and he's going to be fired up doing it. That I can promise you. He's got a relationship with Frank Wilson. They know the player. They know the character of the player. And he enters a room at safety that is low on depth. Major Burns coming back is really good. He's had a nice go at LSU. When he's been healthy, he's really played well. Greg Brooks is back. That's a guy who can play safety, and I think they'll ask him to some. He can move up and play some of the nickel and dime roles as well. Veteran, ton of SEC football. Feel good about that. Sage Ryan is versatile in that way, can play in the slot, can play at safety. I don't think either one of those guys is your prototype at safety, but can do it. Javian Toviano is fascinating to me coming in as a freshman. He early enrolled. He's got a big frame. He's not a speed demon, but he's a savvy, instinctive defensive player and can probably play nickel, dime, or safety. So that's three of those kind of hybrids with Brooks, Toviano, and Ryan. You still got Jordan Allen here. You still got Kylan Jackson, who's coming in as a very highly thought of recruit. Ryan Yates, same way. But Sam, to me, kind of fits in that mold of Brooks and Toviano and Ryan, where he's not 6'2", 215 Mack truck. He's not Chad Jones. He's not Eric Reed. He's not Jamal Adams. But he's athletic and not afraid in the least to stick his nose in there and knock somebody off their cleats. And so LSU's going to have to find a way to make this work in the secondary with the bodies that they have. And I think there is talent. I mean, Burns is a proven player. Brooks is a proven player. Toviano is a highly regarded recruit. Sage Ryan was a 5-star. Jordan Allen has been in the program a couple of years. Kylan Jackson's got big size and is physical. Ryan Yates, same way. So it's not short on, like, talent. It's short on stars. I think Andre Sam can help. And in this age where everybody's spreading the field and you're going to face 4 and 5 wides a lot, having a supply of 6'1", 200 guys that can run and tackle is a necessity. And when I was thinking about this roster exiting the spring, because you start thinking about the transfer portal and where might they add somebody here or there. Like, I think linebacker was one where you're looking at, okay, maybe that makes sense if they do. I personally, even though I didn't even know who Logan Diggs was looking at the running back spot and being like, I'd really like to add a top-end talent there, which they did. And I don't know that I paid enough attention to safety. Maybe it's because Burns back, Brooks is back, and I know Toviano, right? Like, but you start to think about it, you go, they may be short there. Because injuries happen, and depth is a necessity. And I think Andre Sam is going to work out. Again, I teased the segment saying maybe he's a starter. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. Maybe he covers kicks. He's a reserve to some of these guys. He plays in some fourth quarters of some games that are blowouts early. And if you need depth, he can add it. Maybe he's a starter. It's just tough for me to sit here and translate the fact that he made 50-plus tackles at Marshall and broke up 6-7 passes and had a highlight tape where he was all fired up. I could sit here and convictedly tell you, this guy can do it. If you look at a guy who can make it happen in Conference USA and can make it happen in the SEC, this is what it looks like. I don't know, man. I'll tell you this. Beats Charlie's empty chair theory with the basketball program. If you're not familiar, Charles Hannegriff would always say, look, we've had a couple of basketball coaches around here that didn't like recruiting, and all of a sudden you look and you've got an extra scholarship. You got an empty chair there. Empty chair can't guard anybody. LSU's not at 85 scholarships yet. Empty scholarship ain't going to cover anybody or tackle. They're not going to cover kicks. They're not going to play nickel. They're not going to play safety. Empty scholarship doing nothing. Guy in his last year of eligibility, got room. Louisiana kid, wants to be here, fired up, maybe position of need. Have at it. Sounds good to me. He may not play a defensive snap all year. He may be the starter opposite Burns against Florida State. But it sounds like a good roster play to me. I don't think you're squeezing anybody out. This is not like the 25-man signing limit that existed previously where you really had to decide if you were going to offer that spot because you may be wedging somebody out. They're not wedging anybody out here. They don't have 85 guys. They hadn't gotten there yet. It's been a slow build, steady build. They're far closer than they were when Brian Kelly took the job. They're far closer than they were when they walked off the field against half of Purdue's team. I think it's a good fit for Andre Sam to come in. He seems excited to do it. They know the kid. It's not taking a chance on a background that's not quality. It's a Louisiana boy that wants to be here. I'm in. So your safety room looks like Major Burns, Greg Brooks, Javian Toviano, Sage Ryan, Jordan Allen, Colin Jackson, Ryan Yates. Now, you might not have to thrust some of those young players in, and you have a buffer. And if the young kids blow through the buffer and you got to get Colin Jackson on the field, well, he's won his way onto the field. It's not a necessity thing, which is what you run into when it creates a big problem, especially at the top of college football. You get guys who aren't ready to play that are having to play. This guy's a sixth-year player. He'll be ready to roll. So Andre Sam commits to LSU as a safety from McNeese and then Marshall. Again, if you're looking for our football content this time of year and you're bogged down by all the baseball and don't want to hear about any of that and you want football, we've got it for you on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Hunt on LSU. Got a brand new channel. Lock it in, subscribe, and the content will come to you. If you subscribe to the channel, Jacob Beck does an awesome job of cutting up our football segments and putting it right into Hunt on LSU, which you can find on YouTube. So appreciate you all for checking that out. All right, we will, for those of you who are dying for football, go to Hunt on LSU right now because we're about to shift back to baseball. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team going to join us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team have been in this business for 3 decades. You do something for 3 decades, you know what you're doing. Maybe you're just not happy with your bathroom. It doesn't look good. It doesn't function the way it's supposed to. It's the worst part of your house. Make it one of the best. Make it the best. David Duvall and his team can come in. They can do a full-scale bathroom renovation. It is one call to one contractor, One Bath and Closets. You make that call, David Duvall handles the whole thing from there. They're going to show up on time. They're going to put a schedule in place. They're going to finish their work on time, and they're not coming back 3 weeks later to fix something they screwed up. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Maybe it's not a full-scale bathroom renovation. Maybe simple as a tub-to-shower conversion. I got to bathe 18-month-old. in the tub every night. So we need our tub. Maybe you don't. You take showers. You don't have any little ones in the house. Change that boring tub into a gorgeous glass front walk-in shower. It can change the aesthetic of your bathroom. It can change the functionality of your bathroom as well. You won't know unless you get that free consultation from David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. The website again, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground.
Join me, Jimmy Otta and Charles Hanniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time. We're live at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, downtown facing Town Square. We got a really good golf tournament. We got Major League Baseball. We got hockey. We got horses with Colucci, a little bit of everything. Game Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That Game Time promo has been getting me all day today, where Jimmy goes, come out to Jelly Pearl. We got a really good golf tournament. Like, you could just say it's the PGA. The PGA's on. We'll be watching it over at Jelly Pearl later this evening. We're talking baseball here on the Hunt Palmer Show. That's why we bring in our guy, Joe Healy from D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Team. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Joe, how are you?
Not too bad, Hunt. It's the best time of year in my mind. Don't get me wrong. I love regionals. I love being in Omaha. I love all of that. But to me, coming around the backstretch, the last weekend of the regular season, and then the immediate pivot to conference tournament weeks, that 10, 12 days, whatever it ends up being, is the absolute best time on the calendar for me.
It's not going so great for those around here, though. Would you like to
That's
apologize to everyone here for saying that LSU's pitching was in great shape 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, it feels like I'm looking up crow recipes as we speak. Figuring out, should I go smoker? Do I go in the oven? How is it best to cook the crow? But yeah, man, it's an issue. I mean, I would still say that, comparatively speaking, everybody's kind of in that boat. So if you're LSU, you'd love to be in a better spot, but at least I guess you have the solace of the fact that, you've got you've got good company in that regard. So I think I said this on Highway to Hoover. I think LSU is going to be a team because they're going to host. I would even bet they'll be a national seed, but their path through a regional, because a regional is going to be tougher for them than a super regional, because you need 4 or 5 pitchers you trust in a regional, and that's a problem spot for LSU. So it's going to take them getting a good matchup in their regional. They're looking for an overmatched, under-talented 4 seed, maybe a team from the one of those smaller Northeastern conferences. A lot of times they get the SWAC champion, and I hesitate to say that because Alabama State is pretty good this year. At least they have a gaudy record. I'm not going to pretend to know how good they are or aren't. But they need that not only from the standpoint of then you feel really comfortable saving schemes for the winner's bracket game, but also, because the pitching will be such, the opposing pitching will be such that you feel confident, hey, we're probably going to score 8, 10, 12 runs. So if we start, Javen Coleman, for example, against that 4 seed, as long as he gives us 100 pitches and gets us through 6, if he gives up 4 runs, like whatever, So I think LSU is going to be really matchup dependent. What you don't want is, Wright State to pop up as the 4th seed. That's kind of a nightmare scenario for a team struggling on the mound.
I don't know. I was thinking about matchups earlier, and we'll get to that, I guess, down the road when the regionals and such do come out. But I think LSU would be far better served against a team that that thinks that their identity is in pitching, as opposed to a team that's got a really, really strong offense. But are there any teams in the country who are leaning on pitching these days?
Not very many. I mean, again, if there might be some mid-majors out there. I don't know, like if they draw Indiana State as a 2, that's a team that stands out to me. But Indiana State's probably going to end up at Kentucky, if Kentucky ends up hosting, or West Virginia or someplace like that. So I think LSU is probably okay there. But there aren't many. I mean, but I think generally speaking, I think you're right, because those teams that, how it goes. Every year in regionals, there's some 4 seed we don't really expect to compete that you look up and it's the 7th inning and it's 11-9, and you're like, oh God, because that's when things really start to go sideways, because the 1 seed panics and gets tight, and then the 4 seed suddenly thinks like, hey, we can actually do this, and that's when you get into trouble.
It certainly is. You want to venture a guess as to what Georgia team LSU's running into? The one that swept Arkansas or beat Tennessee, or the one that couldn't win a game against Missouri?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the home road, just by the way, on an aside, the home road splits this year, Mark Etheridge has done some of the breakdown of it in his weekly, weekend dish pieces he does. The home road splits in the SEC this year have been really extreme, and that's kind of interesting to me. And I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly why this year has been different, but nobody's winning on the road in the league this year for the most part. So, and I think Georgia's a great example for that, because you look at the roster and there are a lot of individual players I like, but on balance, it's not one of the better rosters in the league. But you come to their place and they can get you. Just ask Arkansas. So I think LSU will probably get something in between the best version of Georgia we've seen and the Georgia we saw last weekend. And the reason I say that is just because, more so than at any point there. I mean, yes, the Charlie Goldstein injury wasn't as bad as it could have been. He was back on the mound, but we know who their 4 or 5 pitchers they trust are. I think part of the reason why Mississippi State was a unique challenge is because their pitching, I mean, maybe this is just me trying to think ahead too much and play chess when it's just checkers, but I think Mississippi State can actually provide a strange challenge to teams because their pitching has been so bad this year. You literally never know who they're going to pull out of the bullpen. Like anybody is on the table. And that's kind of hard to, and it's not like those guys don't have any talent or stuff, right? And so that can get teams. Whereas with Georgia, it's going to be Jarvis Evans and Charlie Goldstein and Liam Sullivan and Chandler Marsh and Leighton Finley, and they have like 5 guys. And some of those guys are pretty talented, some are more crafty, but the guys you need to prepare for. I trust LSU to do some things offensively. Foley Field is a very hitter-friendly park. The games might be ugly, but, I think there's also a point of pride with LSU that, hey, clearly at this point, you need to circle the wagons a little bit. So I'd be surprised if they kind of come out flat and let Georgia take control.
Yeah, I think kind of the hope that LSU fans have, you're trying to cling to anything that you can in this time, is that, look, they packed their bags on Wednesday morning, and they're not coming back until they finish Hoover. So it's going to be a time where they're gone. They're going to get away from Baton Rouge. They're going to go out there and just play some baseball. No school, no class, no nothing. Just go play. And really, there's not a ton of pressure on them. They've locked up a top 16. I think they can do that a top 8 this weekend. Maybe go have some fun and come back a little refreshed and re-energized for regional play at the box. But we'll see. I think this weekend is, like you said, so fascinating in SEC play. The first one I want to go to in terms of the matchup tonight and into the weekend is Tennessee and South Carolina, because I think they're playing for real stuff there. In South Carolina's case is odd to me, like Tennessee's, where their RPI is really good, but they're leaking oil in a way. So what's on the line between Tennessee and South Carolina this weekend?
At a bare minimum, it's hosting. South Carolina looked more like a top 8 seed a month ago, maybe not even that long ago. And now, if they lose this series, they're going to go to Hoover thinking they probably have some work to do to feel good about hosting. Now, as you alluded to, their RPI is top 5. It's not really going to get hurt this weekend. Even if they lose the series, I don't think it'd fall out of the top 10. So that will help. You can be a 16-win team, top 10 RPI, and as long as you don't, fall on your face in Hoover, you probably feel okay about that. But you'd like to win the series, obviously. And, Tennessee needs to win the series to get into that conversation. And the most fascinating thing about this for me is that something's going to give here. Either South Carolina is going to win its first series in a month and probably in doing so look better than it has in a month, or Tennessee's going to look like a competent ball club on the road, which they just frankly have not this season, which is just one of the more bizarre things I've seen this season. So, South Carolina can't shake the injury bug. They were getting healthier. Now they're getting more beat up. Will Sanders is down again. Chris Veach, one of their top relievers, is down again. Will McGillis re-injured his wrist that he had been sitting out for, so he's down again. And Tennessee's going to be without Jared Dickey for at least the opener tonight. They're hopeful they can get him back in some capacity the rest of the weekend, but otherwise they're as healthy as they've been. So, I'm with you that this series, I think, has as much writing on the line as anything else. Arkansas and Vanderbilt's probably more of a headline series, but it feels like there's a little bit less on the line there because Arkansas is probably looking at a national seed regardless, and if Vanderbilt doesn't get swept, it's probably also looking at a national seed moving forward. So a bigger name series, but probably not as much on the line as there will be in Columbia.
What's the latest on Vanderbilt's pitching injuries? I've never seen anything like this from a conference perspective, but I'm looking at probables, and I don't see Holton. And we talked about the depth of Vandy's pitching staff in March, and all of a sudden I'm looking up and go, do they have enough arms?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, so Holton is definitely out this weekend. We will not see Carter Holton in any role. And there's a lot of mystery about his injury because it's been a little bit of back and forth. He's back, and then he's gone, and then he's back, and then he's gone. And sometimes when he's been on the mound, he's not looked great. So there's kind of some mystery about that, but we know they don't have him. On local radio, Tim Corbin said Hunter Owen is 50-50. He's not in the probable starters, but maybe he ends up starting a game if he feels good later in the weekend. So you're right. I mean, things have really shortened up there, and it doesn't help that, they kind of had to do this last weekend and they put Patrick Riley out there and didn't go great. He's going to start again this weekend, and he's got great stuff. That's always been true, but they feel a lot thinner on the mound, and Arkansas has kind of gone the other way strangely. Yeah. You and I have talked a lot about how they've just kind of been doing it with some smoke and mirrors on the mound. And I mean that with all the respect I could possibly give them. But now, look, I mean, Hagen Smith looks better in the starting role than he even did earlier in the season. And Hunter Holland turned in his best start of the year last weekend when I thought he was kind of fading, to be honest with you. And Brady Tigert, look, I mean, I don't know how much of a starter he can really be ultimately, but he looked really good in his return from injury. And so you combine that with Gage Wood being a real dude in the bullpen, and Will McIntyre, really gives you some length, coming in after Tigert in those opener starts Tigert's been doing. And so I'm not about to say that their pitching depth is better than it was to start the year or anything. The injuries are what they are, but they're in a lot better position than I thought they would be at this point.
They are, and then you get the news that Peyton Stovall, their second baseman, is not going to play. So it's just
well, right, yeah. I mean, the position players, like, they lost Stovall, but Wagner's back this weekend. Yeah. That helps. Josenberger was back last weekend, so they're trending the right direction. And the other thing there is that they found some bench guys that have done a really nice job for them. Peyton Cole is the guy who's going to be at second base for Peyton Stovall, and he's hitting. It's a small sample, but he's hitting 333. So they've done a pretty good job of plugging holes in the fly.
No doubt. And then Florida at Kentucky, another huge one. Kentucky, you feel like is 2 wins from a top 8?
Yeah, I think that's about right. When you combine 17 wins, top, it's going to be a top 5 RPI probably, even if they get swept. I mean, their RPI has just been so sticky at the top. I don't think they've dropped below 4 since SEC play started. So yeah, they'd be in great shape at 17 wins. Bare minimum, you host at 17. Mark Etheridge crunched the numbers on that. Basically, every 17-win SEC team ever has hosted. So that's the threshold where you know you're good. With Kentucky, even at 16, you probably feel pretty good because of where the RPI was, but they would be, somewhere 9 to 16. The key for Kentucky this weekend is, can you slow down a Florida offense that looked great last weekend against Vanderbilt? And, Vanderbilt obviously was fighting it on the mound. We just talked about it, but that's maybe the best Florida has looked. And, they looked complete. Jack Caglione was a lot better on the mound. If that's going to be who he is the rest of the way, that puts everybody on notice, because as you and I have talked about, like, that was a little bit of a weakness for Florida. And it looked like they may have figured some things out there, but ultimately it's, can Kentucky keep Florida in the ballpark? Can they keep them at a low enough score to where their offense, which as we know kind of has to go 1 or 2 runs at a time, are they going to be able to keep up?
What's a more realistic scenario for LSU not being a top 8? Their resume is not good enough just in general, or there's just too many SEC teams ahead of them in a pecking order. I've got to give Florida 1. I got to give Arkansas 1. Kentucky just won 2 out of 3 at Florida. I've got to give them 1. Now there's Vanderbilt. I don't have room for LSU anymore.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it is going to stretch the committee's willingness to cram as many SEC clubs into the top 8 as possible. And look, I saw Mark Kingston quote this, that, we saw with the softball field, and I don't keep up closely with softball, I will admit, but I guess it was over-representatively SEC at the top of the softball bracket. And, baseball does not always follow in lockstep with softball. I would actually say more often than not it doesn't. But that is an interesting data point. But I think that's the more likely scenario, that, we get to the end of this thing and it's like, to your point, okay, we've got 4 teams already and we're only at number 6 overall, and here's LSU. Well, let's go to Stanford, or let's bring in the Big 12 champ, whoever that is. Looks like it's West Virginia probably. That, to me, seems like the more plausible scenario.
Tell everybody about what y'all got going on next week in Hoover. I know a lot of LSU fans are headed that direction.
Yeah, if you're an LSU fan, whether you end up in the Wednesday games or the Tuesday games, we'd love to see you Monday night at Brock's Gap Brewing Company, 7 o'clock. We will have we've got the whole downstairs of this brewery rented out. There's going to be some outdoor. I just talked to the guy earlier this afternoon, so I've got fresh details. We've got the whole downstairs, an outside area with some cocktail tables for after the show for people to mingle outside. Knock on wood, the weather in Hoover for that night and the rest of the week, frankly, and I'm going to say that as quietly as possible, looks great. We're going to have, I think 6 or 8 beers on tap. Everybody who comes to the show gets a free drink ticket, so you'll be able to cash that in. There's a food truck going to be there serving up some burgers that I've heard are absolutely out of this world, so I'm looking forward to getting in on that. But go to d1baseball.com for more information on how to get your ticket. There's a charitable effort going along with this, a company or an organization called Arts and Autism, which Mark and his daughter were involved in when they lived in that part of Alabama. So we're excited to be raising money for that group, not only with $5 from every ticket sold, but also there will be QR codes throughout the brewery all weekend, or all week, I should say, where if you feel so inclined, you can donate on top of that to Arts and Autism, which is a super worthwhile organization.
Awesome stuff. I know your schedule's out of control next week, Joe. We'll find some time to chat at some point next weekend, hopefully not dodging rain, and between a couple baseball games, we'll get it done.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears. That's my hope. We get a clear week, and I can join you on a regular schedule with no sort of complication.
All right, Joe, appreciate it, man.
See you, buddy.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. I just, if you're interested in all this kind of stuff with LSU and seeding and learning about other teams, some of y'all, I get it. Just give me the LSU stuff. What's going on with the Tigers? I get that. That's perfectly reasonable. I can't give you 2 hours on LSU and Georgia today. But for those that want to learn about a little bit more, maybe some other teams around the country and certainly around the conference and what things are going on, the SEC Extra package over at D1 Baseball is is fantastic. And they have the Highway to Hoover podcast, which is free, that Mark Etheridge and Joe do every single week a couple of times. And I listen every week. I'm usually doing it while I'm cooking dinner or something, and it's awesome stuff. So we appreciate Joe for coming on each and every day. Again, if y'all are headed to Hoover and you're there, you're living in the area on Monday and you want to get on by and thank Joe for coming on every week and listen to some SEC baseball talk, y'all can certainly do that on Monday night at Brock's Scat Brewery. All right, let's take a time out, come back. I will get you ready for LSU and Georgia. My thoughts on the Dogs next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there.
On Friday's OTB, we'll recap Game 1. Did the Tigers manage to take advantage of Paul Skeens once again? Plus, look forward to Games 2 and 3 in Athens. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m.,
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's scout the Georgia Bulldogs here. Tigers will play them coming up in, 2.5 hours. 5 o'clock, first pitch, Georgia and LSU. The Dogs 28-24 overall, 10-17 in league play. So they need a sweep at the bare minimum to get in because 12-18 ain't going to get it done to get into the NCAA tournament. So Georgia is desperate this weekend to have a sweep to get into the NCAA tournament. They'll probably have to do some work in Hoover as well. They opened SEC play 1-8. They were swept by South Carolina in Athens. They lost 2 out of 3 at Auburn, and then they were swept at Vanderbilt. So they were 1-8 at that point. They beat Kentucky 2 out of 3. Then they lose 2 out of 3 at Florida. This is where you got into the wacky stuff, where they swept Arkansas in Athens. They went to Oxford and lost 2 out of 3. That's Ole Miss's only series win of the SEC season. They beat Tennessee 2 out of 3 in Athens. And then they went to Missouri last weekend and got swept. Offensively, some things that are very, very good. They're 5th in the league in home runs. They're tied for first with LSU in doubles. So your slugging percentage is 6th in the league. Batting average is 7th. That's middle of the road. They do strike out a good bit. They don't walk a ton. But they've got some real thump in their lineup. Charlie Condon is having a sensational redshirt freshman season. He's hitting .415 with 24 home runs. 15 of his home runs have come in league play. He is tall, he is right-handed, and he can hit it a freaking mile. He is awesome offensively. Connor Tate has been very good for them. He's hitting .390 on the year with 15 homers. That's real stats. Parks Harbor, who I talked about at the end of hour number 1, who sounds like a pretty expensive golf course to play. He's got 17 home runs of his own. There's real thunder in those 3 guys in this lineup. But the rest of the guys have been kind of hit or miss. Offensively, I wanted to go back, now that we've got so much SEC data, and go, okay, well, I know the best right-handed arms as far as starters in this league. Georgia's probably seen a few of them. How did that look? So I went back and looked it up. They faced Chase Dolander, who's fairly similar to Skeens. Skeens is better, but similar. Dolander threw 6 innings. They got 8 hits, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks in those 6 innings. And Condon did hit one to the moon. It was a 97-mile-an-hour fastball right down Broadway, and Charlie Condon pulled it over the trees in left field at Foley Field. They faced Brandon Sproat at Florida. He went 7 innings, 3 hits, and they did get 4 runs. How'd they get 4 runs if they only got 3 hits? Well, Charlie Condon hit 2 home runs off Brandon Sproat. Get the picture? Took Dolander deep, crushed 2 off Sproat. He hit a 3rd one in that game, but it wasn't off Sproat. That was a 3-homer Charlie Condon game. They faced Hurston Waldrop from Florida. He throws hard, got good stuff from Florida, right-hander. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 3 walks. So really nice outing by Waldrop against this Georgia offense. Will Sanders is similar to Skeens in terms of projectability. He's a potential first-round pick. He's big. He's right-handed. He throws 95 miles an hour. 7 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. So against those 3 guys, Dolander, Sproat, Waldrop, and Sanders, they did score 12 runs in those 4 starts, 3 a start. Didn't light any of them up. Waldrop was good against them. But Charlie Condon, the big-time power hitter, did hit 3 home runs off Dolander and Sproat combined. So obviously that's a guy you've got to pay attention to in a big way. I mentioned Parks Harbor. I mentioned Connor Tate. That's the meat of this Georgia lineup. And they don't run very much. They're 13th in the league in stolen bases. LSU's last. They're 13 in attempts. There's only 2 guys in the lineup that really ever run at all under any circumstance, and that's Ben Anderson and Mason LaPlante. There's the second one. Those 2 guys run a lot. So what I'm saying is they don't run much. If you want to get creative at catcher and put Travinski back there, you can. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I believe Milazzo will catch tonight because Milazzo catches Skeens, and they're not going to mess with Skeens in that way. So they're going to hit Travinski. The question is he a DH or do you put him at first? My gut tells me they will DH Travinski. They'll play Beloso at first. That's what I'm assuming you'll see tonight. Now, you are seeing a left-handed pitcher. So if you want to play Jones at first and play Travinski at DH, I'm not going to complain about it. I told you at the top of the show about Georgia's pitcher tonight. His name's Jarvis Evans. He did not pitch between March 10th and April 22nd. He wasn't hurt. He was just that far down the line in their pitching staff. He went 7 weeks and did not have an appearance. He's got 4 SEC outings. Only one of them is longer than 2 1/3. He did throw the ball pretty well against Tennessee. 5 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. I don't know how that happened. I watched the highlights, and I still don't know how it happened. The stuff you will see from Jarvis Evans tonight is pedestrian. 87-88 with a pretty straight fastball and a little bit of a horizontal slider that doesn't have a lot of bite. Now, it's 10 miles an hour slower, but there's not a ton of bite. My guess would be loaded up with right-handed hitters and let it go. But I think Beloso will play. So we'll see. But it's not a great Georgia pitching staff. The 2 guys they go to most often out of the bullpen are Will Pearson and Leighton Finley. Pearson is a side armor whose ERA is over 5.7. And Finley's been their closer. But if you were listening in the first hour, we had Anthony Dasher on. And the last 2 times they've gone to Leighton Finley as the closer, big 6'5" guy, throws hard. He's given up the lead and they've lost. So they don't have anybody in the bullpen that's very good. They don't have anybody in the starting rotation that's overly awesome. We'll talk about more of it tomorrow, kind of what teams have left. But LSU should score tonight. It's an offensive ballpark. It's a bad pitching staff. It's a bad SEC opening starting pitcher. I'm just calling it like it is. Jarvis Evans is a talented guy. He throws 89 miles an hour as a left-handed pitcher. That's a talented human. As it goes for series opening SEC pitchers, he's well below average. Well below average. That was the same case last weekend against Mississippi State. That was the same case the week before that against Auburn, and LSU scored roughly 10,000 runs in those 2 games. They ought to do it again tonight. That's just the nuts and bolts of it. I can go through the pitching stats if you want. Georgia's ERA is 13th. Their opposing batting average against is 12th. They're 10th in strikeouts. They're 12th in hits allowed. They're 11th in walks. They're 12th in home runs allowed. Their pitching staff is in the bottom 3 of the conference in every stat you can find. LSU tonight sends Paul Skeens to the mound, sends an awesome offense to the plate, and should take care of business and needs to take care of business. I said this at the top of the show. It is not a must-win for LSU. They don't have to win this game. They need to win this game. Win this game, put this thing to bed tomorrow afternoon with a series win, and get down the road. Now, the problem with this entire thing is that's exactly what I said last weekend, and you didn't get it done. So, hopefully, this team's got a little shot of life. They're going to have to bring their own energy tonight in an empty ballpark. But they should win the ball game tonight. 5 o'clock first pitch. You can catch it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1, pregame at 4:30. It'll be Chris Blair and Bill Franquez on the call this evening from Athens, Georgia. One of my favorite places to go. Great time there a couple times in college. We'll come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and get on down the road on this Thursday.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Love telling you about LWCC. They're Louisiana loyal, just a shining light in our state, in the insurance world, and they want to elevate and celebrate champions of Louisiana. And that's why they call on us to do it. And we're telling you right now about Acadian Company. It's truly a champion of Louisiana. It's grounded in its people and the culture of South Louisiana. In 1971, it was founded by a duo who recognized the need for local emergency medical support. And Acadian quickly established themselves as an early industry trailblazer. One of Acadian's company's initiatives is Hometown Heroes. They partner with local high schools. They train and prepare students for a career as a licensed EMT, and that gives them a career path. They can make a difference in people's lives. That's what we're trying to tell people about great organizations in our state like Acadian companies. If you know of one, go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a champion of Louisiana so we can tell their story. Acadian Companies is our champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Game 1, LSU, Georgia. We'll preview it. Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Some notable scores from up in Rochester, New York at Oak Hill Country Club in the PGA Championship. Jon Rahm, 6 over par, playing his 18th hole today, as is Matthew Fitzpatrick, 2 reigning major champions. Jon Rahm, the Masters, Fitzpatrick, the U.S. Open, 6 over up there at Oak Hill. Keegan Bradley and Bryson DeChambeau at the top of the leaderboard at 4 under. Scotty Scheffler is done with his round. He shot 3 under today. He is tied second with Corey Connors. Ryan Fox, just Corey Connors, those two at 3 under. Ryan Fox in the group at 2 under with Victor Hovland, Hayden Buckley, and Sepp Straka. So a lot of golf left because they had a frost delay this morning, which is funny for a major golf tournament to be playing at a time of year in a part of the country where they've got frost on the ground. It was 33 degrees, but that was the case this morning, but they are off and running. It looks like a beautiful day up in Western New York. So there's your look at the scoreboard for the PGA Championship. Jacob Beck, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, starting out here, Charles Barkley told the Barstool Sports Spittin' Chicklets podcast that he played one game drunk in his career, His agent called him at lunch and said he'd been traded to the Lakers. He went to Fridays to celebrate. The trade fell through, and Chuck played hammered. Take it or leave it.
Look, I played some of my finest golf after a few pops, but I didn't have David Robinson guarding me while I was trying to play golf drunk. So I heard the story. I think it's funny. I probably would have said, look, I can't play tonight. I got a hammy tightening up, so y'all need to move on without me. But he went out there and played a game drunk, so good on Chuck. Don't know who had the 76ers that night, but probably wasn't a great bet.
I actually think I've heard this story, and I think he actually played like pretty decent, like not bad, like actually a pretty good game.
I think it's funny that he went to Fridays to celebrate being traded to the Lakers.
All right, Rafa Nadal announces he is pulling out of the French Open due to injury, and that 2024 will be his last season. Nadal's run at the French Open is the greatest in sports history. Take it or leave it.
You might have to take it.
I'll take it.
I mean, he won it 14 times. His record at the French is 112-3. 112-3 at the French. Djokovic beat him twice, which should be like chief among the top of Djokovic's career accomplishments, even though he's going to be the most decorated player of all time. Beating Rafa at the French twice has got to be unbelievable because no one else ever did it. The other loss was a WD. 112-3, Rafa Nadal. There's not much that's more impressive than that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding that, and there's never been any kind of tennis player and any kind of run that no one other players had a run like that.
No, Federer was good on grass, so was Sampras, but not even close to this good. Djokovic has been good on hard courts and whatnot, but nobody's been that good on a surface. That's just a joke.
Yeah. Last one here. Tyrese Radford and Wade Taylor have announced they're coming back to Texas A&M next season. The Ags are an SEC title contender again. Take it or leave it.
I'll probably take it. They got just about everybody back. I mean, Radford and Taylor are probably not going to be NBA All-Stars, so it's probably good for them to stick around another year, and that gives you a really experienced backcourt with some winning players, and still got some front court guys back. I mean, again, I think it looks better when teams do it with guys who are going to be lottery picks. That's more aesthetically pleasing, but San Diego State proved you don't necessarily have to have that next year. They got all the way to the final, so I'm pulling against them hard, but it's going to be a really good team next year, and Kentucky's going to be loaded with lottery picks, and we know that Alabama, generally speaking, has reloaded the last 4 years, and Bruce has usually got a pretty good team, and last year wasn't great, and we'll see what goes on in Arkansas, but it's going to be a good team over there in College Station, that's for sure, with those two guys in the backcourt. All right, that's going to do it here for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We open things up, breaking down my thoughts on LSU tonight and what the Tigers may need to look like. Looked at the SEC series as a whole. I gave my thoughts on what LSU needs to happen. Also, may have done a few chants and cheers that people didn't appreciate, but got to have some of those teams win tonight. You got to do what you got to do. Anthony Dasher from Rivals came on to talk all things Georgia Bulldogs, so appreciate Anthony for coming on. It's the 5-year anniversary of Joe Burrow tweeting that he was coming to LSU. Talked about that at the end of hour number 1. Andre Sam, safety from McNeese, and then Marshall joining the fold at LSU for this coming football season. What does that mean for the safety room? That was at 2 o'clock. Joe Healy from D1 Baseball at 2:15. And then my thoughts on the Georgia Bulldogs at 2:30 before Take It or Leave It. You can catch all that on demand. Jimmy Ott's Game Time tonight from Jolie Pearl, 6 to 8 p.m. Matt's about to drive you home from 3 to 6 on After Further Review. We'll be back tomorrow recapping LSU and Georgia and a look at the entire hosting and top 8 picture. Have a good one. See you tomorrow. Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With Personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.